Hey, wonderful people! Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Leah. I'm very happy to see you here. Today, I'm going to be talking about all the books I've read over the last 3 months, and I've ranked them from worst to best. Honestly, these past few months have been incredible for reading. I had so many five-star reads. It's almost ridiculous. I also managed to finish almost an entire series. You'll notice that I put all the books from that series in the number one spot because it's my second favorite series of all time, and there's no way I could separate the books. So let's dive in. I'm so excited to share this with you. The last place is Women's Hotel by Daniel M. Levy. It's a historical fiction novel that takes place in, I think you guessed it, a hotel designed specifically for women. It's not a plot driven story, there's no huge mystery to solve. Instead, this book is built as a series of interconnected stories, each one following a woman living in this hotel. We meet residents and staff all navigating their ordinary life in this one very specific place. And honestly, that's the beauty of it. This novel is all about atmosphere, routine, and small moments. If you need action or fast paced narrative, this probably isn't for you, but if you enjoy sinking into a setting, then you might find something special here. I gave it 3.25 stars. For the first two-thirds of the book, it was slow, painfully slow. I kept waiting for something to hook me, and it didn't. But somewhere around the last 100 pages, something shifted. I actually started to care about the characters. At first, I wanted to give it a lower rating. What pushed the rating higher was that feeling after finishing the book. I wanted to know how these women's lives continued. It doesn't happen often for me with slow books. The fact that I walked away thinking about the characters, wondering about their futures, it meant something. And I actually had no idea that such hotels existed. Turns out they existed as a safe, respectable housing for working women, travelers, and students in big cities. That was interesting. The next book is Salem Slot by Stephen King. Oh god, where do I even start? I wanted to love this book. I really did. Going in, I was convinced that it would become my new favorite Stephen King novel. A lot of people talk about it like it's one of his absolute best books, but for me, it just didn't click. Let me give you the basic premise. Ben Mears, our main character, returns to the town of Jerusalem Slot, or Salem Slot for short, a place he used to live in as a kid. He comes back because he's working on a book about the Marston House, and Ben has some serious history with that house. When he was a boy, he went inside and saw something terrible there, something that still haunts him, something that he's never been able to forget or fully explain. So he comes back to confront his past, to write a book, to find some closure. And right around the time he shows up, bad things start happening in town. People disappear, some people die, and there are two new strange newcomers in town who buy that house, Marston House, and they seem way too interested in that house. Like they wanted exactly this house. And here's the thing, when this book works, it really works. There are some great, terrifying scenes. The window scene, the scene in the Marston house. Stephen King knows how to build dread, how to make your heart pound, how to make you scared. But my problem was everything between those things. I found this book painfully slow. And look, I usually don't mind it. I know Stephen King loves to take his time to build the world, to introduce every single person. Normally, I'm here for it. I love that about Stephen King. But in Salem Slot, it just didn't work for me. The pacing felt really off. When the king would finally get me invested, I would be fully immersed in the horror. He would yank me out of it to spend a lot of pages on something unrelated, and that doesn't really matter that much to the story. It got frustrating. I kept waiting for this book to grab me and never let me go, but it never actually did. I gave it 3.25 stars, and honestly, that might be generous. I understand why people love it. It's definitely influential, but for me it was a letdown. But it's still worth reading if you're a Stephen King fan and you know how he became such a great author. I'm trying to read all of the books he wrote in publication order, so I think that's such a great way to see his writing style develop. Doctor Sleep by Stephen King. Wow, so many questions finally answered. I'm such a big fan of The Shining, only of the book, not the movie. The movie was terrible. And I always wondered what happened next. What happened to Danny Torrance after that horrible winter at the Overlook Hotel? How do we even begin to recover from something like that? Did the ghosts ever truly leave him alone? Was he forever broken by what he experienced as a kid? And Doctor Sleep finally gave us answers. And honestly, I was so happy to dive back into Danny's story. The book picks up decades after the events of The Shining. Danny is an adult now, but he's far from okay. He struggled with alcoholism for years, and I liked that Stephen King didn't just fix his trauma like it never happened, but he gave him the realistic way to cope with his trauma. Like, it's a bad way, but I'm not surprised that he's struggling with it. He's hit rock bottom more times than he can count. He's drifting from town to town, trying to outrun his past, but eventually he finds a kind of peace in a small town where he gets a job at a hospice and earns the nickname Dr. Sleep. But of course, this is Stephen King, so peace doesn't last long. Danny's shining puts him on a collision course with a terrifying group of beings. They're they're kind of immortal. Like, they are immortal, but you can kill them. You know, half immortal. I don't know if it's a real word. Half immortal. They are ruthless. They are creepy. And they are absolutely fascinating as villains. What I loved most about this book is how it feels like a true continuation. Stephen King doesn't just magically fix his trauma, he shows us the healing, the setbacks, the struggle, and the way Danny is trying to cope with his past. It made me appreciate Danny even more as a character than I did in The Shining. Also, the way Stephen King connects these two stories is brilliant. There are echoes, callbacks, and moments that made me smile with recognition. I've heard that people say that it's not necessary to read the first book. You can read the second book as its own book. Mm, you can. It doesn't really require reading the first book, even though it's ideology. But I would recommend to read the first book because it will make you appreciate the second book much more. You will understand who Danny is, what he went through, what really happens. And still, I think The Shining is way better than Doctor Sleep. I enjoy Doctor Sleep a lot. I really did. But The Shining is just, I don't know, it's a perfection. And I would definitely recommend you to read The Shining first. But at the same time, Doctor sleeps. Sleeps. But at the same time, Doctor Sleep stands on its own as a great story. I gave it 4 stars. Not quite a perfect 5, because it doesn't have the same raw terror that made The Shining so legendary for me. But that's okay. It's not trying to be The Shining. This story is about recovery, redemption, and choosing to be good and help others, even if you've been through a lot. The next book is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. What a strange and unsettling little book it was. I went into this expecting ghosts, something paranormal. After all, it's Shirley Jackson. I've heard such great things about her, so I was fully prepared to be spooked by something supernatural. But this story, it's a horror story, but it's way worse than ghosts. It's far more disturbing than I expected it to be. The true horror here is just ordinary people who decided they hate you even though you didn't do anything bad to them. Hello. The book follows Mary Catherine Blackfoot, also known as Meerkat. She is our narrator. We also follow her older sister, Constance. I forgot her name. They live in a large castle on the outskirts of a village, isolated from everyone else. With them is their elderly disabled Uncle Julian. A couple of years ago, something terrible happened with their family, and his mind is stuck in that time. He keeps writing about that event over and over again. Constance was accused of it, but then it was proven that she is innocent. And ever since that event, they live in their castle, isolated and afraid of the villagers. A couple of 2 times a week, if I'm right, Meerkat goes to the village to buy food, to get books, and you already can see how much villagers hate these girls. I was just terrified by such behavior. And Meerkat, she just wants to be left alone. She doesn't want villagers to talk about her, to wish her bad things. She just wants to be left alone. Meerkat is our narrator, and she's one of the most fascinating, unreliable, and the most chilling characters I've ever encountered. Her voice is childlike, whimsical, and deeply unsettling. She has her own magical rituals, burying things, nailing things to the trees, saying certain phrases that she believes protect the house and her family from the outside world. She's fiercely protective of Constance, suspicious of everyone, and completely happy with their isolated life. She just wants to be left alone with her sister. That's all she wants. And then their cousin Charles shows up. Constance finds him charming, but he's very manipulative, and he's clearly after the Blackwood's fortune. He tries to insert himself into their lives, and Meerkat immediately despises him. And I agree with her. Right when he showed up, I started to hate him too. And how I already said, the main horror of this book is just ordinary people. The villagers hate these sisters because they are rich, they went through something terrible, and they blame them for it. I think the main thing why they hate these sisters is because they are rich. I don't think that's the reason to hate people. And when something bad happens to the sisters, they don't help. They just make this whole situation even worse. And oh my god, I was just in such a fast-paced read. First of all, because I wanted to see how this whole situation with Charles would unfold. I really wanted Constance to kick him out of the house, and I just kept reading, hoping to see that moment. And second, I really wanted to know what would happen in the end. Because when I was reading it, I had no idea what is about to come. I had no idea. And I didn't expect such an ending. And it was very disturbing. So Shirley Jackson showed us that the real monsters aren't ghosts or something like that. It's just people. What I loved the most about this book is the atmosphere. Shirley Jackson makes you feel dread without even explaining why you feel it. It's not jump scary, it's a slow burn into chaos, and that stays with you long after you finish the book. I gave it 4.25 stars. The final act is absolutely brilliant, dark, and unexpected. I really didn't expect such an ending. While I was reading it, I had no idea where this is all going. So, yes, the most terrifying thing that can happen to you isn't something supernatural or paranormal, it's just people. The next book is The Diamond Bikini by Charles Williams. Now, this is the book that came out of nowhere and completely caught me off guard. I picked this one up randomly at a secondhand bookshop. The premise sounded interesting enough. It's a crime and a thriller, something about a boy, a farm, and a whole lot of chaos. But I wasn't expecting much. I haven't seen anyone reading it. I haven't seen anyone talk about it. I looked it up on Goodreads later, and it has like 221 ratings, including mine. For a book that ended up being that good, it feels almost criminal. So I went in with zero expectations, and wow, I was genuinely pleasantly surprised. It was such a fun read. I enjoyed it a lot, like a lot. The story is told entirely through the eyes of a 7-year-old boy named Billy Noonan, and that alone makes it so unique. He doesn't always understand what's happening around him, the adult schemes, the danger, some weird situations, but he sees enough, and he tells us all of that in his own childlike way. Billy is staying on his uncle's farm, and let me tell you about this farm. There is a quote in a book that sums it up better than I ever could. If there was going to be a goddamn war, or a hurricane, or an outbreak of the bubonic plague, or a revolution, or a rest home for city gangsters with machine gun battles breaking out all over the place, you'd know it'd be on Sagamore Nolan's farm. It's the logical place. And that's exactly how it feels like. This farm is a magnet for chaos. Nothing normal ever happens here. You've got gangsters showing up, some shady deals going, and Bill is trying to make sense of it all while also dealing with his usual childhood stuff. And I just really, really enjoyed this book. It's so funny, and I really enjoyed Sagamore Noonan's character. I wouldn't say he's likable, but he's such a unique character. I enjoyed reading about the stuff he does. Let's put it this way. That was really interesting. And Bill is such a likable kid. He's brave, curious, and so determined to figure out what the hell is happening. Oh, I didn't tell you the premise. Um, Billy moves to his uncle's farm, and then there is this woman. She wears nothing but the diamond bikini, and then she disappears. No trace, just nothing. And because we are reading this story through Billy's eyes, we don't get the full picture right away. We get pieces. Strange adult conversations that don't make sense. People acting suspicious or secretive. Billy knows something's happening, but he can't quite put it together, and neither can we at first. And this book is exactly as absurd and intriguing as it sounds. I guessed what the hell happened pretty early on. There were enough clues sprinkled throughout the story. And here's the thing, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. not even a little bit, because this story isn't about the mystery itself. It's not trying to be some complex layered mystery where you're supposed to be shocked by the big reveal. The fun isn't in being shocked, it's in watching it all plays out, how the characters react, and the way Billy is trying to make sense of all the chaos that's happening around him. And honestly, I think this book works better that way. The mystery is almost besides the point. What really drives the story is the humor, absurdity, and the sheer entertainment value of watching these kids navigate in this world full of gangsters, secret deals, and adults who keep telling him not to worry about things, even though he should be worried about these things. There is a lightness to it, even when things get tense. Williams has this way of making the most ridiculous situations feel believable. So yeah, I guessed the twist, I figure out where the woman went and how it's all connected, but it didn't take from my enjoyment at all. And how I said, this book isn't trying to outsmart you or blow your mind. This book just wants you to have fun, laugh a little, and get swept up into the madness. And that's exactly what it did. What surprised me most, I think, is how well the child narrator works. A lot of books struggle with getting a kid's voice right. It's either too adult or too cutesy, but William nails it. Billy sounds like an actual 7-year-old. It's just a damn good story. I gave it 4.5 stars. Absolutely adored it. If you can find this book, read it. It's really, really good. I have an update for you. I just got the book. I bought all of these books, almost all of these books, at the second-hand bookshop, and I bought Sherlock Holmes Volume 2, thinking that it's Volume 1. So when I came back home, I was surprised, of course, and I can't read this one because I haven't read the first volume yet, and I'm so excited. I read this book when I was a kid. I absolutely adored it, so I just can't wait to read it. I'm currently reading Gone Girl, and then I think I'm going to read this one. Oh, the smell. I'm just so happy. It feels bigger than the second volume. Yeah, it's way bigger. It has one... Wait. It has more than 1,000 pages. Let me put it right here. Do you have place? Perfect. I'll take this book. The next book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This one was a long time coming. I'll be completely honest with you. I was intimidated by this book for years. You know, it has this reputation, one of the greatest English novels ever written, and you'll love it, but I was so scared. Now that I've actually read it, my only regret is not picking it up sooner. I wasted so much time avoiding something that turned out to be absolutely wonderful. Jane Austen is brilliant, and I don't use that word lightly. She's witty, observant, and so much funnier than I expected her to be. Her prose is elegant, and her ability to capture human nature, especially when it comes to family dynamics and social expectations, is so accurate. The atmosphere of the book is perfect. It's not just a romance. It's a window into a very specific time and place, filled with manners and rules that control everything from who you should dance with to who you should marry. I truly felt that I was there with the characters, in the ballrooms, eavesdropping on conversations, and judging everyone along with Elizabeth. Oh, about the romance. The slow burn romance here is incredible. This isn't love at first sight. It's about two people who judge each other unfairly and who have to slowly, painfully, but beautifully realize that they were wrong. Elizabeth is smart. She's not afraid to say what she thinks. And Mr. Darcy, he's arrogant, proud, socially awkward, but underneath all that, he's deeply loyal, honest, and capable of profound growth. Watching them navigate their prides, prejudices, and their feelings towards each other was an absolute joy. What surprised me most, though, is how timeless this book feels. Yes, the language is older and the customs are different, but the emotions, the misunderstandings, the meddling relatives, the terrible first impression, all of it is so relatable even nowadays. Austen created characters that feel real, and that's wonderful. I just fell in love with this book. I finished it and immediately wanted to read all of her other books she's ever written. I wanted to live in her world a little while longer, to meet more of her characters, to experience more of her language. And I think that's the mark of a truly great book, when you close it and you feel a little sad that it's over. I gave it 4.25 stars, and I'm so happy I finally read it and gave it the chance it deserves. If you've been putting off Pride and Prejudice, do yourself a favor and pick it up. It's so worth it. The next book is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. It's a historical fiction novel set during World War II. It centers on two sisters, Vienne and Isabel, and the very different paths they take while living under Nazi occupation in France. One sister, Isabel, is reckless, stubborn, and absolutely fearless. She can't sit still while her country is being torn apart, so she joins the resistance. She risks her life over and over again just to save others. The other sister, Vienne, takes a completely different route. She decides to pretend that everything's fine. She tries to keep her head down, follow the rules, protect her daughter by staying invisible. She believes that if she doesn't cause any trouble, maybe the war won't touch her. I enjoyed this book so much. It's one of those reads that grabs you from the very first page and refuses to let go even long after you finished it. I found myself thinking about the characters during the day, wondering and worrying about them, hoping that they would be okay. That's the sign of a truly powerful story, when fictional people start to feel like real ones you actually care about. This book talks about war, occupation, loss, survival, sacrifice, and the impossible choices that ordinary people are forced to make when their world is falling apart. It talks about heavy but important topics like grief, resistance, what it means to be brave, and so much more. There were moments in this book that made me so sad. I teared up once when Vienne had to say goodbye to her husband when he left for war. There was just something about that moment, the uncertainty, the fear, the hope that they would see each other again. I just had to put the book down for a minute and just breathe. That said, I do have one small complaint. It felt that Kristen Hanna kind of forgot to age her characters. As the years pass, the characters' voices and perspective stay pretty much the same. They don't sound older or wiser or changed by the time. They sound like the same people they were at the beginning, just with different circumstances. And yet I just couldn't give it a lower rating. It's a 5-star read for me, and all of the books after this one are going to be 5 stars. The emotional impact, the atmosphere, the characters, storytelling, everything else was so strong that this little flaw feels meaningless to me. This book is so good that its imperfections don't really matter to me. The Nightingale definitely deserves all the recognition it gets. I understand now why it's so beloved. It's not just a good book, it's an important one. Yes, it was heartbreaking and devastating, but the messages were so important, like women saved friends too, and women can be heroes as well, and women were heroes and are heroes. I also enjoyed that it also talks about the fact that we shouldn't judge people based on the country they were born or based on their nationality. It doesn't matter. What matters is how that person chooses to act and whether that person chooses to be good or bad. And what really got me was Isabel. She's so brave, she's terrified, but does it anyway. I just couldn't stop admiring her. The next book is Riverman by Terry Pratchett. Absolutely, without a doubt, 5 stars. I don't even know where to start with this one. It was beautiful, it was hilarious, and it was unexpectedly profound in a way that completely caught me off guard. I went into this expecting a funny and witty story about death, and it definitely delivered on that, but what I didn't expect was to be genuinely moved. To sit there staring at the wall after I finished it, just processing everything I've read. The premise is deceptively simple. Death gets fired. Yes, you heard that right. And so he's cast out into the world, stripped of his powers, and forced to live among humans as a regular, aging, and mortal being. He ends up on a farm trying to figure out what it means to be alive. And somehow Terry Pratchett made me care deeply about a skeleton with a scythe who literally takes people's lives. I did not expect that, not even a little bit. What makes this book so special is how it balances the absurd and the heartfelt. One moment you're laughing out loud, and the next moment you are thinking about your life. Pratchett has this incredible ability to wrap deep philosophical questions in layers of humor and fantasy, so you don't even realize you are being asked to think about mortality, purpose, and what makes life worth living until you're already knee deep in it. Oh, and the humor, this book is so funny. I found myself reading entire passages to my fiance because I just couldn't keep the laughter to myself. Pratchett's writing is so clever and so uniquely his own. He can make a joke about something mundane, and it will be such a great and funny moment. And overall, this book is about purpose, about the idea that even death itself deserves to be understood and valued. I never expected to have so much empathy for a skeleton, but here we are. I loved the moment when Death realized that people kill rats, and he was terrified by it because even though he takes people's lives, he never kills them. This book made me fall in love with Terry Pratchett's writing. I've read his other books before and I enjoy them, but Reaperman was different. It hit me on a deeper level and it showed me that Terry Pratchett isn't just a funny fantasy writer, he's a brilliant observant of human nature, a philosopher disguised as a comedian, and overall, just a phenomenal storyteller. He's now officially one of my favorite writers. Not just fantasy writers, but one of my favorite writers. I'm definitely going to keep reading the Discworld series. I just want to live in his world as long as possible. The next book is Better Than the Movies by Liam Painter. I couldn't stop giggling while reading this book. It was so cute. The kind of cute that makes you kick your feet and makes your heart happy. I devoured it basically in 3 days because I just couldn't put it down. When I finished it, it was my favorite book of the year. But then I read another book, and that one took the number one spot. So now, Bedrooms and the Movies is my second favorite book of the year so far, and that's okay. It's such a great book. Like, I'm very new to the romance genre, like brand new. It's my third romance book I've ever read, and now I'm genuinely terrified that I will never find another romance book like it. I've heard so many people say that it's their favorite romance book ever. Now I've read it, and I hope I can find something like that because I just loved it. The chemistry between main characters is electric. The banter was incredible. The enemies to lovers trope was done perfectly, and the way Lynn Painter weaves in all those romantic movie references, perfection. And the characters themselves, Liz, our main character, is so relatable. She's a little awkward. Well, she's not a little awkward, she's extremely awkward and so determined to get her happily ever after. And Wes, her neighbor, is so much more than he seems. He is funny, patient, caring. I just loved both of them. And watching their relationship develop was an absolute joy. I felt so happy reading it. It made me want to go and read it again because I just didn't want this book to end. And that's the sign of a good book. You finished it and you're not ready to let it go. I definitely love this genre now, and I'm going to read more romance books now. I started reading romance this year, and I'm so happy I finally did it. And I'm both so excited and so nervous to discover more books like this. Oh, wait, I forgot to tell you what this book is about. Um, our main character, Liz, she is very determined to make her childhood crush Michael fall in love with her, and her neighbor Wes helps her to do that. They bicker constantly with each other, they annoy each other a lot, and the premise is so simple, but the execution was just perfect. I've also read all the bonus chapters and stories. Most of them are from Wes's POV, and if you read Legends of the Movies, I think you should read the bonus chapters and stories as well. They just give you so much more information about Wes and what he felt. So yes, I just highly, highly recommend to read this book. So the first place is The Darkest Night series by Alexandra Bracken. The third book in the series is my favorite book of the year so far, but let's start from the beginning. I'm going to talk about all of the books, but without spoilers, of course, so don't worry. The Darkest Minds was the first book I read in April, and wow, what a way to kick off the month. The story is set in a crumbling America where a mysterious disease sweeps through the child population, leaving them with terrifying new abilities. Kids are sorted by their powers. Blues have telekinesis, yellows can control electricity, reds wield fire, greens are super intelligent, and oranges can manipulate minds. Sounds cool, right? Except the government sees them as threats, so they round up these kids and throw them into camps under the guise of helping them. The conditions are horrific, the lies run deep, and the whole country has basically collapsed into an apocalypse. Empty towns, ruined economy, and a society running on fear. Our main character, Ruby, manages to escape from one of these camps, and from there we follow her struggle to survive in a world that literally wants her erased. I absolutely loved this book, gave it 5 stars without hesitation. And this book made me realize that apocalyptic worlds are one of my favorite settings to read about. The Darkest Minds nails that vibe. The characters are incredible here. The world building is immersive. And I think that the characters are the reason why I loved that series so much. They do stupid things, but they still feel like a family. Also, if you are a Stranger Things fan, you'll feel right at home then. It has the same mix of dark government secrets, gifted kids on the run, and found family dynamics. Fun fact: this book came out before Stranger Things, so if anything, it's the show that gives off the Darkest Minds vibes. Then I couldn't let this world go, so I've read two shorter stories, In Time and Liam's Story. I love them both. I think that I gave In Time 5 stars and Liam's Story 4.5 stars. I think In Time is such an important book here because it gives you a look what it's like to be an adult in this kind of world. After reading the first book, you may think that only kids have it bad, but this book shows otherwise. And Liam's story is just a story about the character before the events of the first book. It was nice to be in his head. I enjoyed that. Then I moved to the Never Fades. It's the second book in the series. I gave it 4.5 stars. This one picks up right after The Darkest Minds ends. Ruby is on her own now. She's tougher, more broken. The stakes are higher, the action is non-stop, and we get to meet so many new interesting characters. As much as I loved it, Never Fate has a different feel from the first book. It's darker, more exhausting, more political, and Ruby goes through a lot, so you just feel tired along with her. In June, I finished this trilogy with the last book. Well, it's not the last book, it's a trilogy, but there is the first book. It's not necessary to read the first book, but I'm going to. And the third book, In the Afterlight, I gave it 5 stars, and I was truly speechless. I don't even know how to put into words what this book did to me. I loved it with all my heart. Every single page, every single emotion, every single moment, it hit me right in the chest. And wow, what a way to end this trilogy. I'm so happy to live in a time when books like this exist. That's why I'm a reader. Ruby's character throughout this entire series has been incredible to witness. She starts as a scared child who doesn't know who she is or what she's capable of, and by the end of this book, she became someone else entirely. Not entirely. She's still the Ruby we love. She never loses her heart, she never becomes cold. She's still Ruby, just a little different. I felt so empty when I finished this series. Well, I felt extremely happy, but at the same time, I wanted to cry that it's over. And In the Afterlight isn't just a great conclusion to a great series, it's a reminder of why we read. To feel deeply, to connect with characters who feel like family, and to experience a story that stays with you long after you finished it. Then I've read Sparks Rise and Beyond the Night. These are novellas, and I think they are so important to the story. And if you've read the main books, I think you should read these novellas as well, because they just add so much depth to the story. It's about a character who is mentioned briefly in the main books, but to be honest, I kind of liked her story even more. I don't know how it happened, but these novellas are so freaking sad. I cried while reading the Beyond the Night. I cried and I was so heartbroken. The character in these novellas plays such a huge role in the whole story. She definitely influenced Ruby a lot. I gave 4.5 stars to both of these novellas. I would give it 5, but they seemed and a little too short for me. These novellas show us that even characters who only appear briefly can have stories worth telling. And sometimes their stories are just as powerful, if not more so, than the stories in the main books. And these are all the books I've read in the past 3 months. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope your TBR got bigger. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Happy reading!